Hello guys, it's Dr. Patrick Price and welcome to the Body Detective Show. And today we have a great show with you today. We have Luis Perez, a very good friend of mine, a very wonderful martial artist, and today we're going to hear his story. So stick with us today, and for the program, we're talking about martial art and fitness today. So my good friend Luis, we're going to let him give us a nice background about himself, guys. So Luis, all yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Luis Perez, pleasure. I'm a Judoka by choice. I born and raised in Puerto Rico. That's where I started my martial arts voyage. I've trained in karate, Muay Thai, wrestling, a little bit of boxing. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is my current art. I have a black belt in judo. I have a brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu. Started Jiu-Jitsu in Houston because of the lack of judo. I was in Florida and Miami when I first.
Right.
There's not a lot of that. It's
When did you start judo?
very interesting. I was in elementary school and a very small school, private school, and we had one of the main judo teachers come twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays after class as part of the extracurricular activities.
Is that part of the school system?
Of our school, yes.
Wow.
So 2 days a week he taught us, Mama Wadu Kemis, forward rolls, side falls, Ippon Sewinage, Osotogari, Yogoshi, just the simple judo techniques and how to sit, how to stand, all the basic of judo. Around that time, Karate Kid comes out. I had two cousins that were Shotokan practitioners, black belts, and state champs. They were older than me. They are older than me. And I started training with them on the weekends. I did that for about a year, but kept doing judo during the week at school. At nights, I would play basketball, so I was little sport Billy there doing all sorts of things. I stopped judo when I went to high school because I got a scholarship for sports. Well, not a scholarship, but they allowed me to stay in school because I was good in sports, because I was really not a good student. I had good grades, but my behavior wasn't the best.
The sports was the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I think most guys can relate to that, but sometimes school, if you're not an educated person as far as a scholar,
right,
sports is why you're in school.
Yes.
You gotta live
yes.
for PE, right?
Yeah, it's like eating your dinner so that you get dessert.
Right.
So I would go through school so I could play ball,
Okay.
So that's how it worked out, and I always kept doing judo a little bit until.
So how
high
were you
school.
about when you started introducing to judo?
I was seven or eight, around there. Yeah, 7 or 8, and it was about 10 of us, all boys.
And so Kodokan judo, right?
Yeah, it's traditional. So Mr. Julio Clemente, Sensei Julio Clemente, became, he was one of the prominent dojo owners in Puerto Rico. He became an Olympic judge, and he went, I think, Barcelona and in '92, and what was it, Atlanta, '96. So he was an Olympic judge in those two Olympics and many other international tournaments.
So did judo really stand out well during that era as far as the country?
So it's still, judo's pretty big in Puerto Rico. It's kind of like, it's interesting because we're known for baseball and boxing, but judo's huge in Puerto Rico as far as community, right? And we've had many Olympic athletes. For as small as Puerto Rico is, we've produced good judokas, and hopefully we continue to. So yeah, it's one of those things that you don't know until you either meet somebody that does it and introduces you to it, or you're born into the family either by a cousin, an uncle, or your father or mother are judokas.
So let me ask you a question. So like a lot of kids, as far as when I got in, I was right during high school time, is you're wondering, like, I don't know if you were doing the Bruce Lee era, like watch Bruce Lee.
Oh,
like
of
I
course.
did, so
Everybody does. Everybody does the martial arts.
You know, they asked me the question in school, you know, what do you want to be, Johnny, when you grow up? A fireman, a policeman? I said, I want to be Bruce Lee. And the teacher looked at me and go, Bruce Lee? I'm like, yeah, I want to be Bruce Lee. And that was my answer. So, and when you start judo, like I started in Japanese jiu-jitsu, that's my first art. So did you get to a point in training judo, like, when do we kick in the head? And your teacher's going, well, we don't kick to the head in judo. Did you have that kind of a question for your teacher at that time?
So because I was training with my cousins on the weekends, we were doing Shodokan, so there's a lot of striking and blocks and
so you know the difference between the two?
absolutely. So I understood the difference, and that showed me that it's not just one thing here. There's so many more. And then the Bruce Lee factor there too, that he was a cross trainer from the get-go. After his injury, you know, he became a cross trainer, and that's the Bruce Lee that I knew. I didn't know him, you know, just from the movies, but everything else. And he wasn't just a traditional art. He kind of brought in so many things to make his even better.
Yeah, because he was one of the first guys actually publicly that was bringing different systems together, where even the Chinese community, we know that Bruce Lee kind of shunned him in a way because he was mixing the arts.
Yes.
And during your era and my era, that was still happening in the schools. You didn't mix the arts.
Well, look at you know what the UFC did in the beginning. For example, it was they pitted a wrestler against a boxer and a sabate against a sumo wrestler. You know. This is what he does, this is what this other guy does, and put them together and see which is the best art.
So how were the teachers about that growing up, as far as knowing if you train in some karate art versus judo? Were the teachers kind of shunning it also, your kids, or were they okay?
So I don't remember sharing that with my teachers that I was doing one or the other. I did share it with my friends, because you would go back to school and you would show what you learned on the weekend or what you learned in the afternoon the next day, you know, and we used to fight a lot. Back in the day, you could fight in school and it was okay. You were still friends. You know, you beat each other up and then like, all right, I'll buy you a hiwc, a little tang.
Kind of what you did back then.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. So as far as your background, starting in judo, then introducing to the karate arts, is looking back to even to this day, what is it that you love so much about martial arts in general? What is it that still holds you even to this day?
It became a healthy addiction, a painful one, but but healthy. It's shown me what number one, what your body can and cannot do, and how to strive to become better every day, and not just at one thing, not just at throwing people and submitting people, but you as a person, because you realize that there's always another level to everything. And you want to reach that, and that permeates through life, right? Any martial artist can tell you that.
So like besides just sports, it reached a deeper side of you in some way.
Absolutely. Judo, for example, you bow in to get in the mat. The mat becomes a temple, the house, a family.
Their sanctuary.
Correct. And you respect your partners, your friends, your co-workers. They all represent that in life. Your teacher it's your father, it's your boss,
So the aspect of the training, the traditional way, when you were bowing and showing respect, you felt like that extended also outside the dojo as well.
Absolutely. You see what respect, you learn more. Your family teaches you about respect, but when you get slapped by your sensei, it's a different kind of teaching, and you understand what respect, not by violence, not by force, but just straight respect, and it goes back. You take that home, you take that everywhere you go. It's not, when you're an engineer, you engineer stuff at work, but when you're a martial artist, you're a martial artist 24/7.
So does that aspect go when you're buying clothes? Do you go to the, like when you buy your blue jeans, can I throw a kick in these jeans? Do you think about that when you're buying your shoes, your pants, your shirts?
Pants,
move?
absolutely.
Those of you out there, martial artists, will understand this.
Yeah, you need to be able to wear clothes that allow you movement, and it comes with a gi. It's loose fitting. The judo gi is a lot more loose fitted than a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gi. Yes, but still it allows you for movement and allows you for flexibility and you think about those things. You still want to look good, of course, but
right.
you want that functionality in your clothing.
And now you got all these pants are made with the stretchy pants,
which is amazing.
Even jeans, they needed these pants
even
like
jeans,
back in the 80s. You know?
Even jeans, where were they when we were growing up? Yeah,
I had those old Wranglers. You go,
oh man,
and almost cut my circulation off to throw a kick, right?
You grew up in the country, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Very small town,
yes.
but hey. Okay, let's move on to. Now, thinking even that back then to now, what do you enjoy when you're training? Everybody has an aspect that like stand up on the ground, weapons. What do you really enjoy doing in the martial arts? What's your thing?
I've learned a lot from a lot of people. My kicks still suck, even with all the Judoka that I did. My kicks still suck. So I enjoy boxing, the boxing aspect, and the wrestling and the judo and the jiu-jitsu part of martial arts, which is what I have experienced on. I would like to learn.
So the ground game is your thing.
The throws, the grounds, the striking. Yes, it flows. I feel more comfortable with it, and as I've gotten older, the sport aspect of it has dissipated, and it's become more of the growth as a person, becoming better at each technique, instead of just thinking about points. For example, in jiu-jitsu, a knee right, you get the 4 points and all these things. I'm trying to find first what works for me at my age, and number two, what is functional and what makes sense in real life.
And guys, he's being very humble to us because I've known Luis for a while, and this man, when you watch him in his grappling sessions, some guys grapple with strength and power. He has that, but he's like water. He just flows and oozes into each movement, and I know he's going to be very humble about that, but he's an excellent ground fighter. And we used to have him come to our school and just teach a little bit of stuff, and just the basics for him. People were still kind of scratching their head like, okay, he made that look really easy, why can't we do it? And so I know for sure is in the ground area, this definitely is a forte of his. And so where do you feel like you got your strength? Would you say your judo foundation really helped you with your ground game?
I owe it all to judo.
Judo first, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So how do you feel today when people look at Brazilian, and this is not to bash any artist, when people kind of take away the flame that the judo set the foundation before the Brazilian jiu-jitsu? How do you answer those type of conflicts?
History, man.
Mm-hmm.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu wouldn't exist had a Japanese master had not come to Brazil. That's the beginning of it. A small man chose to redesign jiu-jitsu so that it worked his body type and opened the door for many others. Kudos to him. I freaking love it. I still practice it to this day. But none of this would exist had it not been for judo flying from Japan, being flown from Japan to Brazil.
So Brazilian jiu-jitsu, to me, I look at it's really kind of advanced the grappling world because they've opened the door to many other various techniques and systems to integrate into the Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yes, and you see it in MMA. You know, even wrestlers that have wrestled all their lives have to learn jiu-jitsu now. They have to. And we saw it this weekend with Justin Gagey getting choked out by Oliveira. A jiu-jitsu practitioner choking out a wrestler. You have to practice it. You have to understand your ground game. Every fight starts standing up, but at some point it could. There's a 50-50 chance that it's going to reach the ground.
Right. Now, when I first learned Kodokan myself, it's like we didn't hardly do anything from the waist down in traditional judo. When it comes to locking, I learned a knee bar.
Yep.
Was it kind of like that? You didn't have much of a, from the waist down?
Negative.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when it began, it was the same. They didn't really have from the waist down all these knee bars and ankle locks, heel
Correct.
hooks, these things.
Correct. I couldn't pinpoint when it started evolving to that. It was more of shuto and what Paulson practices, catch wrestling. All these guys, leg locks are part of their daily meal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they eat ankle locks, they eat toe holds. It's how they feed themselves. And unfortunately, judo and jiu-jitsu didn't do this, and judo still doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Traditionally, they still don't.
They still don't. I forget now. It escapes the name, but there's a judo system that is very similar to catch and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I'll come back to you with that name.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
Let's build the next thing. So as far as keeping in shape, and I know me personally is when I go to the gym, work out, run, stretch, it's always how I train. I'm training for martial arts. Not that I'm getting in shape to get in shape. I get in shape for what I do in martial arts.
Correct.
So when you get yourself in shape, is that same aspect with you? You think about how you're going to apply it to, say, martial arts?
Absolutely. When I started lifting weights, I was 15 years old, super skinny. I say that I had dish soap here because you could put a soap bar here and another one here. How skinny I was. My goal was to gain weight and get stronger. But as I started understanding the benefits and learning about lifting, of course, and I started understanding the benefits of getting stronger in lifting and how it could be applied into the martial arts and the sports, all the sports and arts that I was practicing, I started looking for ways that I could use that to make my sport better. Not necessarily getting bigger and shredded and you know,
So what did you do? So what is your usual routine you did to keep you in martial arts shape?
I like to build myself from the bottom up, right? So legs, back, shoulders, and then the rest, right? Those are the, of course, grip. Grip strength is essential no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I like squats, I like deadlifts, I like cleans, high rep cleans, speed, explosiveness. I like pull-ups, I like a lot of rows, sled pushes, things that get my cardio going while I'm building strength and endurance. So
as far as endurance, what did you?
I like swimming. Since I moved to Houston, it's not easy to find somewhere. I don't like pools all that much.
You got the bayou over there, the sewage system of Houston.
Yeah, I like
you may
Houston.
Swim for your life if you swim.
Man, if I can't see my feet, I don't think I'll get in there.
Yeah. So you, a lot of lifting to get strength in your core,
Yes.
your legs.
Yes.
What about flexibility as far as
So
stretching?
yoga and of course after every session of training, I like to stretch. Minimum 5 minutes. I have a few basic movements again from the bottom up. You know, work your calves, your ankles, your thighs, your hamstrings.
So your workout is a daily routine for you.
In one way or another, I'm always active.
And you always change your routine, probably doing things differently with the body.
Yes, nothing is. I follow a lot of what my body tells me, and that's come with time. You know, before
listening to the body, very important. Right?
Yes. When I started lifting, I used to have like Monday's chest, Tuesday's legs, and that kind of thing. But as I've grown older and understand my body and understand exercise and martial arts, I've learned to go with what my body feels is needed that day.
Okay.
You know?
So this is something that kind of breaks the mold of the past. The past was just like you said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday this,
Yeah.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
And I did the same. And I think as a martial artist, you learn to listen to your body more. And it's very important what he's telling you guys, because when you have a routine, make sure you adapt your routine. Be intuitive enough to know that, you know, my shoulder's tight today, so let's not do the shoulder. Let's more or less just stretch the shoulder out these days. And let's go with what my body feels. And I think when you always change, and make your body adaptable is how the body learns to grow.
Absolutely.
It learns to adapt as well as we age, because guys, if you're a young martial artist, you can abuse your body all day long. But as you get older, you get closer to the 40, the 50 mark, 60, you have to be more smart how you handle your exercises, your stretching, your running. As we say, your yang routine is more of your intense workout, and yin's more of your soft. He mentioned yoga, where I like yoga, but also a little tai chi and qigong as well. But what I want to talk about now is how does he prepare himself for the mental aspect of martial arts? What do you think you've learned from the mental side that helps you better in the world around us today?
You know, we've gotten in this system of rat race, right? So we all work, and us martial artists have the benefit of having that escape. Because of how martial arts have evolved, and majority of them into a sport, a lot of us don't see the mental preparation in going into the dojo, the training session, right? We go from work straight into the mats, and there's really very little transition. We go through the motions a lot. So again, as I've gotten older, I've gone back to trying to apply that silence before I get to training.
Very important.
No. I try to avoid the phone on my way in. I try to avoid.
So would you say when you're younger, it's like loud music on the way to the dojo?
Yeah, you gotta get hyped. You gotta get ready for it.
Silence the dojo.
Yeah, exactly.
Very important, guys.
Yeah.
When you're 19, you play the loudest music you can. When you get a little older, you have silence in your mind.
Yeah, you kind of try to leave work and the rest of the life out, and
Well, probably because of I think like this: when you're younger, you don't have a lot of responsibilities, and as we get older,
very true.
You have your own business, you have your family, you have all these other obligations, and so you don't have a lot of silence in your mind. So
Yes.
right before going to the school, very important to have like that meditative, clearing the mind moment.
Yes.
And that's probably what you're speaking of. And very important, guys. Think about this. If you're blaring your music before you go to school, you probably don't have a whole lot of responsibilities. You're probably like 19. So when you go, the old traditional days, they meditate before they train. Before they train, not afterwards.
Yeah.
So like Luis is saying, when I go to the school now, I turn my radio off. I sit in the car and I sit in silence. And I just try to just clear and dump everything out of my brain that's been going on during the day. Everything about work and my life, and putting it all to the side. So I just have a clear mind. I don't always think about even what I'm going to do before I get there. I just clear it all. And then when you walk in, you're walking in with a clean sheet of paper. Okay? That's kind of where you're talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's move on, guys. Now I want to move on to an important aspect of the show today. And for all you watching the show, this is not just about martial art fitness. It's also about when something happens in your life that's very traumatic, how do you overcome it? And Luis has a really good story for you guys to share with you. I've known this man for a long time. I've gone through my own traumas. And when you go through a trauma, and you go through it so dramatically that your body does not function like it used to, it takes a lot to overcome it. And so I'd like him to share what happened to him with you guys. Okay?
January 17th, 2021. I was riding my motorcycle. Kids. Love motorcycles still, but riding motorcycle on a Sunday afternoon here in Houston, and
They're not very far from your house, right?
no, less, maybe a mile and a half to be bad estimated. A gentleman ran a stop sign and clipped me on the right and destroyed my right leg. I flew about, 30 meters and landed on my shoulder, dislocated my shoulder, tore 3 ligaments on my shoulder. On the leg, I broke my femur just right below the head of the femur. I shattered my right tibia, and my right foot was, out of, I think we have 32 bones on the foot, I have 13.
They barely saved your foot, right?
Yes, sir. I had 13 fractures. It was, imagine a bag of potato chips and you just smash it and then you open it. That was my foot. So 16 months later, here we are.
How many surgeries?
10 surgeries.
10 surgeries.
10 surgeries. I'm still limping. My foot it needs more work, and my shoulder is working fine. It's getting strength and mobility again. A lot of therapy, a lot of work, a lot of strengthening. The foot is still the issue. I limp. My toes don't bend still. My ankle has very little mobility. The femur, every now and then, if I try to do a side lunge, I can feel it, but
Not yet.
Not yet. It's
Not
not.
yet.
Yeah, but I had my first jiu-jitsu session this past Saturday. Felt amazing.
So it's
Of
first
course.
class today, guys. It's May 8th today?
Today's the 9th.
9th?
I think, yeah.
9th today?
Yeah.
2022, and he's back on the mats.
Yes, and I was like a little puppy with the tail, getting excited when he's going out for a ride. It felt great. Of course, I felt several limitations, but time.
You're back on the mat, so.
Yes, I'm back.
So think about this, guys. So this man basically take his body and divide it in half, and everything was kind of broken all the way down. It's like he was the yin and yang of himself. So he's been putting all the pieces back together. Been broken. He's had a lot of good surgeries he's had done himself. I've watched him go from step 1 to step 2, and here he is walking without a cane, without a walker. And many people, once they get a trauma like this, they're done for life. A lot of people are in a wheelchair, but yet the martial art aspect of him is just that willingness and eagerness to never give up. And yet here he is back on the mats after just such a short time. So how is your routine now, as far as how you rehab yourself, how you work out now, compared to what you used to do? Tell us a little bit about that.
So there's a lot of stretching involved. I gotta reteach my foot how to balance on itself. There's so many screws and bolts and in that foot that the mobility and it's not quite there. So when you plant your foot naturally, it spreads and it allows for that push when you're moving forward or even backwards. My foot is stiff, right? So I don't have a lot of balance yet on that foot, so I'm working on that. Stretching, strengthening. I'm doing a lot of high rep weights, a lot of kettlebell work, mobility and explosiveness. How? A lot of cables, a lot of dumbbell and kettlebell pulls, pushes.
What about internal? Are you doing more cleansing and detoxing?
So I'm getting into that.
Supplements?
I was in Puerto Rico for 11 months, so cleansing wasn't all that available. Our diet isn't the most healthy, the healthiest diet there is, but I'm here, and we're gonna work on that together. And
So what you're saying is now we're going to do some more cleansing and detoxing.
yes, sir.
So the idea, guys, is to retox and then detox.
That's not the idea, but that's what happened.
So one thing about it is when you have a surgery, especially mini surgery, you have a lot of anesthesia, a lot of chemicals in your body.
A lot.
And so this is really where he is now, and I can't tell the audience enough who are watching. When you cleanse your colon, you have to do it over and over. When you want to get the chemicals out of your body, and this is where he is, the liver and gallbladder system has to be flushed over and over again. And that way his lymphatic system can detoxify itself, his whole vascular system can function better. But I'm quite amazed where he is now. But now he's just moving into the next stage. And that next stage is learning to do stuff with your body that you've never done before.
Yeah.
And this is the area where you are right now.
It's a new body and new challenges for sure.
So tell us how, when you woke up, and here you are laying there broken in pieces, how did the martial arts help you mentally to get through this? How did you just not give up? How did you just not get depressed and let the world go?
That's very funny.
I know that's a tough place.
It was. So I landed face down. My helmet had no scratches. The rest of my body had them all, but there was not a scratch on that helmet. And my buddy who's at Judoka says, like, that was judo that saved your head. And I'm like, yeah, you broke fall, and I don't know, because my body shut down on that hit. But I landed face down, hands in here, and stretched. When I'm trying to turn so that I could face the sky, because I'm looking at a gutter, literally, I felt my hip, and I figured it was kind of stuck, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's, that's the injury. And when I'm turning, I see the foot, and the foot is turned, and there's a boot, and the foot is twisted, and I'm like, all right, I'm not making class on Monday.
So your first thought was this martial art class, right?
I'm missing class on Monday.
All right. So that was determined that you're missing class at this point.
Yes,
All
I
right.
just didn't know how many classes I was gonna miss, and when the paramedics show up and they cut open my jeans and the boot and the sock, and I see my foot, and I asked the guy, I remember his name, Zach, paramedic, and I asked him, how bad is it? And he says, like, I hadn't seen anything this bad in a foot, and I'm like, all right, definitely that's not just gonna
Not
be
what you wanted to hear
no,
at that moment.
no. And when I get to the ER, I asked the medic, the doctor, and he says, yeah, in 3 months you're gonna be walking. And I'm like,
Really?
that's what he said.
How about that?
It wasn't 3 months.
But once you realize when you're like out of the hospital even and you're at home, and you realize, okay, I'm not gonna move like I used to for a while.
That was tough.
That's the toughest place I find is
That was tough.
after the trauma. How did martial arts really help you at that point? Because I know you're in your mind fighting the negative thoughts over those positive thoughts, right? How did it help you there?
Not to quote this guy, The Rock, but he has one thing that I admire, and he says that his workouts in the morning are his anchors, right? That's his anchor. He wakes up and he works out, and then he can go on about his day.
Mm-hmm.
To us martial artists, to most of us martial artists, we go about the day so that we can get to class later. So that we can do what we love, not what we must, right? Laying there without being able to get out of the bed, all I thought was, when will I be able to train again, and how much of it will I be able to do? The more surgeries I went through, the harder it became to keep that thought alive, and many nights I thought it was over, right? And as time goes by, the body heals, and your mind starts getting stronger with people around you that help you stay aligned and not deviate to the darker side of your thoughts, which is very easy to do.
It's very easy just to give up, right? Just
Yeah,
to say, okay,
yeah.
I'm done.
And when you find yourself weak, when you've never been, when you find yourself without the ability to move, when you always moved and to a higher level of movement, it's challenging. It's very difficult to see that light at the end of the tunnel, but
something kept you going. Something inside, right?
the want, the need to get back on the mat and do what I love and do what makes me feel alive. Martial arts, whether it be judo, jiu-jitsu, anything, is what keeps me going to the gym and lifting weights so that I can get back and put on my gi and go on the mat.
So guys, this is those of you out there who are going through some kind of a injury or trauma, or something's happened to you. This man sitting here today, I tell you, you can do it. You can make it through it. Whatever the worst has happened to you, there's still a part of your body that can function. And I myself can tell you, as I damaged my back years ago and lost use of my legs, I could not move my legs for a while. I was so excited when I could do one thing. I could pick up a sword and draw a sword. And so I began my sword training again. I couldn't do karate, couldn't do judo, couldn't do none of my other arts. But when you find that one thing you can do, that's what gives you that kind of hope, that kind of inspiration that you can go back to where you were. It's just you have to go back differently. And this is where Luis is now. He's finding out, as you learn to adapt that routine, what you can and can't do. And then you just focus on what you can do, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So remember, all of you out there, don't ever give up where you are. I watched a man lose his legs to diabetes, a karate man. He started doing karate with his hands out of a wheelchair. He never gave up. So never give up, guys. So I want to we're getting towards the end of the show, guys, and I thank you for sharing that with us. It's the first time these guys shared this, and probably to anybody, so it's brave today to be on live film with you guys, and I appreciate him for doing that. But I want to ask you, where do you see the future of martial arts going? All the stuff you've been through, all the training you've done, all the people you've met, where do you see the future of it going at this point?
Well, you can see where all this is moving. You can see it in judo. You see it in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. All these arts started as traditional self-defense mechanisms and systems. I think sports have allowed for all these martial arts. The sport aspect of many martial arts has allowed for martial arts to reach further deep into communities around the world. So I'm not mad about it. I think I'd rather have a sport judoka than not a judoka at all. So if it's through sports that you learn about a martial art, so be it. I think the more the merrier, the better people will have. Martial arts is something that teaches you respect, teaches you about.
So maybe back into even the school system again, right?
Yeah.
I really think today, I mean, like you said, judo back into the school, it once was a lot of places. In fact, Japan, it was part of their system.
It's still taught in the police academies.
I think today, having martial arts is some aspect part of the school system is extremely important for the discipline and respect that we learned in the martial arts to bring it back to the schools. Because you see a lot of that in kids today, they don't have that respect, they don't have that discipline. And video games don't teach you that, right? So where would you like to see things go in the future? If you had your wand out here and could wave the wand, where would you like to see the martial arts industry go? Even the different arts, what would you like to see happen?
I would like the state, whichever, I'm not talking about the United States or Puerto Rico, I'm talking about worldwide, states give more funding for martial arts, for kids that can't afford to pay for school. States could help kids learn something and become better people.
Like Chuck Norris had that after-school program for a while. He had for a lot of kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the states, our federal funding could have, and not necessarily they have to go and be a competitive student, but maybe every student who just wants to learn martial arts,
yes,
the school would be able to offer that, or a federal program to offer the martial arts to people who can afford it. And really to get their mind, their body, to get them where they want to be, no matter where they are, or those of you watching this, you have kids, is get you involved in a martial arts school. And one thing I like about the future is things are going and they're exposing a lot of the arts, which is good. People are getting a sense of what's all out there. But also helping to keep the traditional ways. I don't like that we are losing a lot of our traditional ways. I like to see schools and those instructors that may be watching this, if you have a traditional way that worked for you, keep it in your system. Keep the bowing. Keep the showing respect before and during training. Have some kind of formality that keeps your student disciplined, humble, the way it was first taught. And I think if we lose that in our martial arts circles, we lose that kind of foundation of where martial arts began, we'll lose who we are and it simply become just another sport like baseball or basketball. Mm-hmm. And so that's one aspect I hope we keep some tradition in our schools, which I know you've been trained traditionally and I have, and we still keep it in our schools. Not as strict as when I was brought up, but keeping it enough for the students to learn. When they walk in that school, they respect the school, they respect the mats, they respect each other. And like you said before, you see it off the mats. You can always tell someone outside their school who was trained traditionally and who was not by the type of respect they show.
Yeah.
And especially you never see a traditional guy cursing. You don't see them cursing or doing a lot of crazy things off the mats as well. So guys, if you have a school, you're watching this video, please keep some type of tradition in your school to help your students, help them find a way and keep them in the dojo in a very disciplined way, because look at all the single families, mothers raising their kids these days. A lot of that's happening and they don't have a male influence. So I'd like to wrap up the show today. Any closing remarks for the people watching? Because it's not just martial arts. We have all kind of folks be watching the show today. What is any kind of closing remarks you think people need to learn out of what you've been through recently?
I think just take care of yourselves, take care of your bodies. You don't, cliche, you don't know what you have until it's gone. If you're still healthy, the only way it's not about living a long life, it's about living the life you got the best way possible. The healthier you live, the happier you'll be. So eat well, stay healthy, and share that with the people around you.
Excellent. Okay, guys. So thank you for watching the show today. We had Luis Perez today, martial artist, the unknown famous Luis Perez. He's a very humble guy, but today we actually talked about this film a long time ago, pre-trauma. And so anyhow, it just kind of worked out that after it's post-trauma, he had a lot more to talk about today, a lot more experiences he had to bring to you guys. So guys, keep watching for the next show. I got many good guests coming up, and every month there's going to be a host of people we have on the show, from doctors to people in the esoteric fields to martial artists. We got a whole list of people coming. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I'm Dr. Patrick Price, the Body Detective.